everybody, and welcome back to the Writer's Parachute. We are guiding author and writer dreams to a perfect landing. And today we have a very special guest. We have Kerry Ahrend. She is an author, career strategist, and project management expert. And we will be talking to her in just a few minutes about her amazing book, Project Career Quest. But for now, as always, we have a little bit of housekeeping for you guys to take care of. Of course, always we want you to subscribe, to share, and to like the Writer's Parachute. We are also on social media on Twitter, Instagram, and Facebook. Please go share and like on those channels for us. And as always, check out the new episodes week after week. We will have some amazing upcoming guests. We've already had some thrilling upcoming guests. This is episode number 7. I am so happy to have 7 episodes for you in the can, so to speak, and ready to blast out to the world. I'm having an amazing time. So as always, we are doing our new in 2022, and we're talking about self-care. And I want to talk about self-care in taking time away from your writing and author. Now that seems kind of antithetical to what most of the time I say, but what I do know is that you do have to get out into the world. You do have to see what is happening. Get out into nature, get out around people, go absorb some art, go absorb some things that are just happening, because even if we're writing fiction and or nonfiction, it is of the world. So we can't lock ourselves away constantly and expect to be able to have any kind of thoughts or any kind of connection to the real world. So I do encourage you to schedule time. Try, if you can't do it once a week, maybe once or twice a month. Get out and away from your writing space. Take your notebook with you, make a few notes. That's perfectly acceptable. But get out into the world and take care of you, filling back up that creative bucket. Maybe you might find a new idea or inspiration that you can add to your work and project right now, or maybe your next one. So I hope that helps you. And I want to know what it is that you're going to try to do in the month of February, new for 2022, to get out and about into the world and connect it to your work and project. So if you could leave that in the comments or the notes, I would appreciate it. So let's get on with it. So I wanted to remind you that at the end of the show, I always have a writing, publishing, marketing tip for you. We pull the ripcord on that at the end of the show. So be sure to stick around for that. It should be an amazing one today. But today, we have to welcome our next guest, which is Kerry Ahrend. And as I said, she's an author, career strategist, and project management expert. Kerry is an international trainer, speaker, coach, and now an author of a best-selling book to help people find work and careers that are more meaningful, fulfilling, and engaging. She combined her 30 plus years in project management, both as a practitioner and a corporate trainer, with her 12 years as a career coach to create a book to help those in career transition. Actually, Project Career Quest is more than a book. It's a total coaching package that helps guide the reader on their career quest journey using best practices of project management to initiate, plan, execute, monitor, and control and close out of a career search project. Kerry is a certified project management professional and has worked for one of the leading talent management organizations in the world, where she works with corporate clients to successfully transition to new jobs and or change careers. Welcome, Kerry, to the Writer's Parachute. How are you today?
I'm great, Donna, and it is so great to be here with you. And congratulations to you for this being your 7th edition. And I know you're going to have many, many more successful sessions and some great authors and so forth. So I've listened to a couple of your podcasts so far, and I found them to be very interesting. And so I would just say, if you're an author out there, Donna's going to bring some great information to you. So I'm excited to be here today. Again, thank you for inviting me.
Oh, you're very welcome. It's like, I'm very excited about this book. It's like, I want you to hold this book up and then I want you to turn it sideways. This is a hefty book. Look how thick this puppy is. So you worked so many years as a project management trainer. How did that experience help you to create and write this book? I'm really curious about how you made that big leap. I mean, that sounds like the Grand Canyon to me.
Yeah. Well, let me back up a little bit and tell you a little bit about my career. I was in corporate America for 17 years. And then I finally figured out what I wanted to do for my career moving forward. Okay. And so when I left there, I went into training and I had been going through project management curriculum. I'd been a project manager and I realized I really loved project management, but I also loved training. And I was in charge of professional development and training for the last 3 years that I was with my company. And so it was sort of a natural transition into project management training. So I was doing that. And most of my courses were 5-day courses. And I was on the road a lot. Okay. Imagine this, fly out on a Sunday, teach Monday to Friday, then fly back, almost always out of town. And Saturday I was doing laundry and then repacking and flying out again on Sunday. But over time, companies started saying, we don't really want our employees out for 5-day classes. So can you make your classes 3-day classes? So a lot of the classes that I was originally doing is 5 days. They were compressed into 3-day courses, which gave me 2 extra days of the week to do something else with. And so I started volunteering at a local job seeker group. One, because they have a lot of people that come through with project management experience. I happen to live in Raleigh, North Carolina, which is the Research Triangle Park. We have a lot of universities. We have UNC and NC State and Duke University, lots of PhDs, candidates, the most in the world, actually. In this area, we have a lot of pharmaceutical companies, tech companies like Cisco. Their main campus is in California. I've taught there many times, but I think this one in Raleigh is like their second largest campus. So we have a lot of big companies in this area. And a lot of folks are focused on project management. And so I was volunteering over there as just sort of a natural fit with my project management background. But then eventually I ran into one, actually, is one of the job seekers that said, you'd be really good working for this company that I'm getting my coaching package through. And, have you heard of them? And I'll just put a shout out there. There's a company called Lee Hecht Harrison. And actually, when I left my corporate job, even though I left voluntarily, I got a really nice buyout package. And I actually had 6 months of training with this company. So I was familiar with them. So I thought, heck, why not? And so I ended up interviewing with them and took on I'm actually considered an employee there, but I don't work full time for them. But it was perfect. And so this is back around 13, 14 years now when I started with them. And so now I'm doing career coaching. But what I realized between the work I was doing with Lee Hecht Harrison and working with the job seeker groups is that every person that came through, for example, a job seeker group, they're really working a project. Okay. If they were laid off, see, let me just go through the criteria of a project. Okay. So people understand how it fits in there. A project has 4 basic criteria. Well, one, it's time bound. There's a definite beginning and a definite end. Okay. So when someone gets laid off, for example, I always tell them, I say, if I decide to leave on my own, then I initiate my project. If you get laid off, somebody else initiated it for you, right? Okay. But it's time bound. It's goal oriented. And so when somebody's coming through and looking for a job or a new career, their goal is, find a new job, find a new career, or whatever. So it's goal oriented. There's a set of interrelated activities. And, basically what this book is these are the interrelated activities that help bring that project together. So all the different things that need to be done to have a successful job search or career quest project. And then every project is unique. So for every single person, whether it's writing a book, and by the way, writing a book is a project. And that's what's so natural about this thing too, because when you sit down to write a book, first of all, you've got to initiate it. You've got to decide, okay, I want to write this book. What do I need to do to get started? Right. And that's initiating. So there's 5 processes in a project. So there's called the initiation process. Okay. So when you make the decision to do it and you do some initial things, then you've got to plan it. Just like when you write a book, you've got to do an outline and a book proposal and all that kind of stuff. So you got to put a plan together. When you're looking for a job, you got to put a plan together. What am I going to do? And that type of stuff. Then you execute it. So you do it. So executing it would be writing that book, sitting down and actually getting words on the paper, right? After you got your outline, your proposal put together. Same thing with the job search is once you put a plan together, say, how am I going to do this? So I'm going to go to the job seeker group on Mondays and I'm going to, hire a career coach and I'm going to do this or that, you put your plan together, but then you got to start doing it. You've got to get the resumes out. You got to start interviewing. You've got to start networking. So that's executing.
Mhm.
And then monitor and control in every project from the beginning to the end. You monitor and control the results that you're getting and saying, is this what I want? Am I working according to my plan? Is my plan working out? Do I need to go back and do some more planning? And if it's working out fine, what could I do better? That type of stuff. So that's monitoring control. And then you close out a project. Okay, so the same thing with the book. I think about writing my own book, Project Career Quest, is I actually had at least 3 projects. So writing the book is a project,
Right,
publishing the book is a project,
right.
and then marketing the book is a project. And there could be some more in there. And you're more the expert at that than I am, but you've got to, you write the book beginning to end, you got a project, right? You're going to go through all the phases I just talked about, then you got to publish the book. Okay. Now that I got this book written, what do I do? How do I publish it? And then of course the marketing process, that's another project in itself. So you've got at least as an author, 3 projects. And as a job seeker, it's a project. And the reason I write this book is because I want people to understand that it is a project. And that's why I called it Project Career Quest. So a quest obviously is something that we're going out and we're seeking, we're trying to find something, right? And in this case, you're trying to find a career that you love, hopefully. I mean, that's my end goal on this book, is to help people not just find a job to pay the bills, but something that they'll love to do, right? And so the career quest, but it's a project. And chapter 4 in this book talks about the project management process. And I tell people, say, first of all, I want you to have the mindset and understand that you are the project manager. And in
Sure.
fact, when I'm speaking to job seeker groups, one of the first things I'll always ask them is, whether I have 10 people in the room or I have 160 people in the room, I'll say, okay, how many people in this room are project managers?
Right.
It's
Well,
fun
you're
to,
kind of jumping ahead here on me, and it's like I feel like I'm kind of extraneous in this interview, so I'm going to stop you right there. I mean, this is amazing information. So let's go to the next question I had for you. It's like Project Career Quest is an all-inclusive reference book and a program for job seekers and those looking for meaningful work, and it gives it has so much included in it. So I want you to give us kind of an overall kind of sky view of everything that is included in this book, because it is so much. We could sit here and talk about this book for days and still not cover all of it.
That's true. That's true. Yeah. So Project Career Quest, as you said before, is it's not, I like to say it's not just a book, it's a total coaching package. And so what I do with Project Career Quest, in fact, the first 3 chapters don't even talk about how to do the job search or the career quest. It's more about what you might experience during the process. Okay. So I talk about the emotional aspects of it. So for people who have been laid off, for example, first thing they have to do is get over what I call the why me syndrome, or, the what if and all that kind of stuff. I mean, I have worked with job seekers who have sat there during the session when I talked to them right after their HR manager talked to them, told them they were laid off, gave them the package and sent them into me because my company, we were going to do the training for them, right? And sent them into me. And I've had people say, I'm okay with it. I'm glad. I'm ready to move on. In fact, if they didn't do this, I would have quit anyway, right? So I have some people who are like mentally they're there. Okay.
Mhm.
Most people, that's not the case. Most people are like, oh my gosh, what am I going to do? I just had a baby. I did this, and they're like freaking out, right? And it's like the end of their world, right? And so the first couple chapters really deal with the emotional aspect of it, and how to get through that and realize that this is not the end of your life and that there are opportunities waiting for you. In fact, the subtitle of the book is Navigating the Journey to New Opportunities Waiting, and that NOW. And I bolded that on the cover because it's now. And if you know what to do and how to do it, you can work, you can do that now. And so So I deal with the emotional aspects in the first couple chapters. I deal with the challenges that you're going to face, like the challenges that writers face when they get distracted, lose focus. It's easy. And I tell people, I said, be careful, because once you, if you've been laid off, for example, or even if you chose to leave, all of a sudden your spouse starts saying to you, if you're married, or your significant other, or your children, or somebody might start, or maybe just friends, and say, hey, now that you're not working, can you do this now that you're not working? Or your spouse comes in with a big long honey-do list or whatever. And I tell people, I say, I started to say this before, right, when I said how many people are project managers, and some people who are really project managers in their job, they might put their hand up and the rest of them don't. And then I say, well, I just want to let you know that you're all project managers now, because your project is now called project job search, project career quest, call it what you want, but you've got a project now to try to find new employment, right?
Right.
And but the challenges are, you're going to be distracted, and people are going to try to divert you this way and that way. And so, the book is to help keep you focused. I talk about the roadblocks I'll encounter. Roadblocks like they're trying to get a project management job and they don't have a certification. I'm a PMP, project management professional certified, and some jobs, if you don't have that certification, you're not going to get the job. But there's a lot of roadblocks. You don't have any college education. We're looking for college educated people, or, whatever. So I lay out a lot of I call them job search realities. And I also lay out in the first couple chapters the potholes that you'll fall into. And I call the potholes the bad habits. Okay. Like getting on the internet to do your job search. And next thing you know, you're on Facebook for hours chatting with friends or doing something else. So there's a lot of things that I really am trying to set people up mentally so that they're prepared for what could go well and what could go wrong with their job search process if they're not, sort of aware of it. And having seen this over and over again with people, I share that with people to put it in front of them. And a lot of people say, wow, I hadn't thought about that, but you're right. So that kind of puts them in a good place. Then I move into chapter 4, which is about project management and what that looks like and how project management fits into their job search or career quest project. And then one of the favorite chapters in the book for everybody is chapter 6, where it's about getting to know yourself. Because you really can't find a job or a career that you love, especially a career that you love, maybe a job that you like temporarily, but to find a career that you love unless you know yourself.
Right. And I'm going to interrupt you here because I just had a thought that occurred to me. I mean, we do kind of make the comparison to authors and writers who are generally independent, self-employed people. But I'm just wondering, I mean, this actually is a perfect kind of plan, a roadmap for those also who want to create their own business, isn't it?
Absolutely. Absolutely. I mean, here's the thing, almost everything in life is a project.
Right.
Whether you're planning a retirement party, a birthday party, writing a book, starting, wanting to create your own business and become an entrepreneur. I mean, everything is a project, because you got to make a decision to do it, and then you initiate it, you plan it, you execute it, you monitor and control the results. Are you getting what you want? And then at some point you might close it out. For example, if you want to be an entrepreneur, the closeout would be when you finally open your business and, get things started. And then you start in what we call day-to-day operations. Okay. So it shifts from a project to more like the maintenance and day-to-day operations. So everything is a project. And that's why project management is so relevant, not only to careers, but writing books, to, really everything. And that's the thing I've told some people. I said, even when you go through this book as a job seeker, you should walk away from this book with a lot of new knowledge that will help you moving forward in your life and in your career.
Oh, I can attest to that. I mean, there was so much information and I'm just like, wow, I really never thought about that. And I really did like the part that you were talking about, chapter 6, getting to know yourself, because there are habits that I do on a regular basis. And for years and years, I couldn't quite figure out why I did them. But after going through your book, I'm like, okay, that's why I do that. It's like it was some weird hang up that I had and I was trying to disguise it, hide it, or kind of sweep it under the rug. And that was kind of why I was doing things the way. And I'm like going, wow, that was such a freedom to go, okay, that's not relevant anymore. I can just kind of let it go.
Yeah. Yeah. Well, and and just to go quickly through the other chapters, not all of them, but chapter 6, chapter 7 is about discover your passion and helping people go down that. I do talk about how to work with recruiters and hiring managers. I talk about chapter 13 is on communication styles, and particularly I focus on the Myers-Briggs indicator to help people to, again, that's part of better knowing themselves. But the reason I put it in there was more to help people understand how to communicate with people during their job interviews. Because, some of us are extroverts, some are introverts, some are, sensors and intuitives and thinkers and feelers and judges and perceivers. And if we know a little bit about that, we can read the other person, because when you go in for a job interview, for example, you're trying to connect with the other party. And it's about making that first and that good first impression, but also building that relationship with the person that you're interviewing with, so that they're like, yeah, I want this person on my team. And so that's why I put chapter 13 in. And then of course I have all the stuff on how to put together an effective resume, how to put together a personal marketing plan. A lot of people aren't familiar with that, but that's one of the best known or best unknown in many cases tools, but it's a very, very effective tool. How to interview effectively, the whole interview process of, what should you be asking, what should you be looking for? This is sort of this two-way process. Negotiating for compensation, for salary and your total compensation package. Most people are afraid to negotiate and they leave so much on the table. And studies show that only I think it's the numbers aren't exact, but it's like 36% of women negotiate and 42% of men actually negotiate. Everybody else is just taking the basic compensation package. So I talk about that. I give some great examples in there of, working with one particular HR manager who said, hey, when I hired you, all I could offer you was the basic compensation package. I'm not allowed to offer you anything else. But if you ask, I can take it under consideration. And that's why I have the quote in the book. It says, if you don't ask, the answer is always no. And I want to give you a quick example of that. This week I do I'm in a dog rescue and I do golden retriever rescue. And last year and this year, I'm handling the golf tournament. And this will be our 21st year. It's called Golden on the Green. And we got a letter this year saying that the country club had voted not to let any outside groups use their golf course on the weekend. And of course, we've had this on a Saturday for the last 21 years, with the exception of 2020, when we didn't have a tournament due to COVID and that kind of stuff. And so they said, we're sorry, but, you won't be able to have the tournament here, but you can have it on a Monday. Well, we don't want to do it on a Monday. We'll lose a lot of people when a lot of our volunteers work and so forth. So before we, the other folks were getting ready to go, okay, where do we got to look for another course and like that. I said, wait a minute, before we do that, and I asked Jennifer, she was the one that was in charge of it for 18 years before I took over. I said, Jennifer, you've got the relationship with them. I said, will you either call them or write them and ask them, since last year, we signed up again for this year. We've already advertised it. It's on our calendar. We've been there with them for 16 out of the 21 years. We have a long-term relationship. Will you ask them if we can have it there this year? Because at this point, we only have 6 months to get everything, find a new course and everything. And if we can have it there just this one last year, then we have a full year plus to find it. I said, it's just like I tell people when they're negotiating salary. If you don't ask, the answer is always no. Okay. The other 3 people on the committee, they were all ready to just start looking. I said, just ask, and let's start there. And then we'll come back and we'll figure out if we have to find a new course. And they wrote back and they said, gosh, actually the other guy that had been there had just, was no longer there. And then the other guy said, the new manager said, I didn't realize that you'd already made that agreement. And he says, and I know you've had a long-term relationship with us. Yeah, go ahead. We'll let you have the tournament here this year. And we appreciate you being there and all. It was just like, oh, wow, took a lot of pressure off of me. But, so many people are afraid to ask just because somebody says you can't have it here anymore. Well, I said, what do we have to lose? Right. And it's the same thing in negotiation. And that's the kind of stuff I try to help people in the book to see things that, it's simple stuff, but we don't think that way.
Right. And I myself say this all the time. I have people come to me and they're like, oh, well, I don't want to ask because they're just going to say no. And my response is like, well, if you're already expecting no, then if they say no, it shouldn't bother you. You should just be surprised when they say yes, which is an amazing thing. So why not ask? What is it? One of the famous baseball players, and I forget which one, that said, that you miss 100% of the swings you don't take.
Mhm.
And he's right. It's like go ask. It doesn't hurt. It doesn't hurt you. It doesn't hurt them. It's like, as long as you both respect the boundaries, it's not a big deal. So you have so much packed into this book, and you have what is a quest methodology that helps determine a career versus a job. Can you tell us a little bit about that process?
Okay, so let me correct you there in the fact that the quest methodology isn't actually to determine the difference between a job or a career. But let me just talk about the difference between a job and a career. And this isn't the definition, the dictionary definition, but I'll give you my definition. When I think of a job, when I graduated from college, okay, now I like Project Career Quest because I'm one of those college kids that went to college just I wrote it in the book. I used the dartboard method. I didn't know what I wanted to major in, so I like, okay, fine, I'll major in political science. Didn't know what I was going to do with it when I graduated. Well, it came to graduation year. I still didn't know what I was going to do. Had a friend of mine that went to paralegal school. I thought, well, I can start there, see if I like it. Maybe I'll go to law school, but I don't want to spend the money for that. I'm not sure I like that. So let me do that. Okay. So between the time I graduated from college and I started paralegal school, it was, June to February the next year. So my cousin, who's living up in near Erie, Pennsylvania, about a half an hour from there, she says, why don't you come up here for the summer and, stay with me until you go down to Atlanta for paralegal school. Well, I went up there and a friend of mine went with me and we got a job waiting tables at the Holiday Inn in Erie, Pennsylvania. Okay. And to me, that was a job. I never thought about that as being a career for me. That was just something I was going to do temporarily until I went on to, more education or whatever. So that's a job. Now, I also, when I was working there at the Holiday Inn, there were ladies there that had worked at that Holiday Inn like 30, 40 years, a couple of them.
Right.
For them, it was a career and you could tell they loved it, So just because it was a job for me, for them, I believe that was their life career. And, but a lot of us take jobs, even people who lose a job, for example, we'll call it a job, but they lose their job and they're out looking and they're like desperate. They're like, I just need a job to hold me over to pay my bills, but I'll keep looking. And they might take anything just to have something to be employed. So I think the difference for me, the difference is, a job is something I do just because, and it helps me get through and it helps me get by, and it helps me pay some bills. But a career is something that I'm looking at as something with longevity, something that I can do, something that I hopefully will enjoy doing, and that I'll find it meaningful and purposeful. So that's the difference there. Now, the quest
Well,
method.
let me stop you there because I want to make sure I completely understand this. So you're basically saying that a job is more a logical decision based on economics and need, whereas a career is more of something based on emotional attachment and something that you love doing. Am I getting that right?
Well, okay. So Donna, what would you call what you do as a writer? A job or a
Oh,
career?
well, I would say it's a little of both. Some days it's a bigger job than others, but for me, it is a career because it's something I absolutely love to do. There are some tasks that I have to do to pay the bills as we speak, so that where the job comes in. But
Yeah.
for me, it's a career. It gets me out of bed every day. I don't really dread it. I just kind of, pop out of bed and it's like I'm excited as to what I need to do that day. So for me, it's a career.
Yeah. Well, here's what I would say. I'd say that Project Career Quest can help you find a job. Whoop, let me get this right way. It can help you find a job because the
Mhm.
problem there is helped you find a job. But I went beyond just helping people. I could have just written about how to do a resume and how to interview and how to negotiate for your salary and all like that. And that would be helping people find a job.
Mhm.
Okay. But I went beyond that when I talked about how to find your passion and really getting to know yourself. Because if you want to find something that you love, you have to know what you love. You have to know your values. You have to know your priorities in life. You have to know all that kind of stuff. You don't have to know all that to get a job. Okay. So this book can help you get a job if that's what you want, but it can also help you find a career that you love and really focus in on here's who I am and what would be something that I would hopefully love to do, and I talk about the process. It takes time. Sometimes, there's well, the chapter 7, when I talk about discover your passion, I say there's 4 ways to find your passion. And one of them, some people just find it intuitively. Like, this is a little kid, like next door neighbor girl who wants to be a vet, and she's known that all her life, and she'll probably go to vet school and be a vet. Some people know it from a very young age, but most people, they find it, they figure out what they want to do when they grow up through experience.
Right.
And that was me. I tried the paralegal route, and I did that for 5 years. And I knew I didn't want to go to law school. I didn't want to be a paralegal forever. So I tried something else, and I tried something. But I finally landed somewhere that I said, yeah, this is what. And the funny thing, and I'll tell you a little bit about me, I ended up in a group called a warehouse engineering group. Okay. Now, everybody I worked with, they were engineers. Okay. They were industrial engineers, or they were civil engineers. I wasn't an engineer, but I ended up over there because I was writing business plans with them, because it was my writing background. So I was writing their business plans. But once I got the plan in place, my boss called me in his office one day and said, Kerry, I want you to go down to Jacksonville, Florida, and you're going to work with Manuel down there. And we're transitioning stuff from our Miami warehouse up to Jacksonville, which is now going to become a super warehouse. We're putting 150,000 square foot building addition on there. And I need you to go down there and help them. So I always call it, I wish I had, I call it the magic wand, effect, where it's like magic wand, you are now a warehouse engineer. And that was my job level, right? Okay. I didn't know anything about warehouse engineering, but I did that for the next couple of years, and I loved it. I mean, I loved it, but that's when I figured out how much I hated sitting behind a desk all day. Right. It was like, I love this. And I loved, working. And it was, this was back in the day where, most women, we wore dresses or skirts and pantyhose or whatever, all that kind of stuff. And now I'm working in the warehouse in blue jeans and hard hat and, protection goggles and all this stuff. But I loved what I was doing, but it was project management work. And that was my first real introduction to project management, even though I've been doing projects before that, but this was true project management work. And I did that for a couple of years. And then I was moved off and onto another big re-engineering project for the company. And anyway, but somehow I ended up in this group, and I ended up taking over the education, training, professional development. But it was like, I love project management. And so it was a natural transition for me. But that's when I talk about, and I share some of that in the book. It's like, this is a natural transition where some of us just find out through experience what we love. And then we can say, aha, now I can make this my career moving forward. Okay. Right. For some of us, it happens in our 20s. Some of us, it happens in our 30s. Some of us, it's our 40s. I mean, some people I come across people, corporate clients all the time. They're in their 50s and 60s and still don't know what they want to do when they grow up, because maybe they've spent their whole life in a job, going from job to job, not really that fulfilled, but now they want, and let me give you a couple of terms here. We talk about careers. There's your basic career, but there's also something called a portfolio career and a non-core career. Are you familiar with those? That terminology?
No, but I'm gonna have to cut you off there, because I know you've got so much information, and we are limited here on time, and I have so many other questions and stuff that I really want to get to. So with so many adults influx seeking careers or replacement careers, tell me exactly how your book can help them, because I think they want to know how it's going to help them.
Okay. Well, first of all, let me just say that the audience it could be a college student trying to get their first professional job. And it also can be seasoned professionals that are trying to get, then you said their job. That's what I call an encore career. So how is it going to help them? And I mean, it helps everybody basically the same way, because the process is the same, whether you just got out of college, or you're a seasoned professional and you lost your job, or you've decided it's time to, be part of that great resignation and just go, look, I'm tired of this. I want to do something different. So the process is the same. The experience and other things will be different, and everybody's project's going to be unique, but because they've got these tools in place now, it will help them as they go through the entire project management process, if you will.
Right. And your book is really not just theory. It actually has concrete steps and processes for them to get through it. Okay. So talking about that, what is your top 5 tips for anyone who is serious about obtaining a serious career and not just a job.
Let me give you those top 5 tips. Yeah. And then I want to come back to the quest methodology because I
Sure.
got,
Oh, we did skip that.
yeah. So I would say my top 5 tips for people would be number 1, as Plato would say, know thyself. Okay. And that's the why everybody likes chapter 6, because it really does. And it's amazing, Donna. It doesn't matter whether they're 20 or 30, but 40, 50 years old people, 60, who still don't even know themselves, because I'll say, well, what do you want to do? Well, what are you passionate about? What do you like? What do you dislike? And they're like, or one of the questions that you'll get asked in a job interview often is, tell me about yourself. And people they can't. So number 1 tip, know thyself. Number 2 would be focus on what makes you happy, not what makes somebody else happy. And I think that's what happens with a lot of kids when they go off to college and their parents go, oh, no, you shouldn't do that. Be an engineer like your dad, or be an accountant like your mom, or do this or that. And a lot of people, and I'm sure that a lot of people that are watching this can say, yeah, I studied and went to college and studied something because my parents were there, or my parents encouraged me to do that. Or maybe your parents weren't a doctor or a lawyer or whatever. They said, go be a doctor or a lawyer. You'll make more money that way or whatever. And so you did it to please them, but it didn't please you.
Right.
And my cousin lives in Santa Barbara, California. Her son went to law school at George Washington and finished law school. And then it was time to take his boards. And he said, I don't want to be a lawyer. Can you imagine? I mean, after going through 3 years of law school, and I think it's because his father had recently died. I don't know that he would have said that if his dad had been alive, because I think his dad would have said, you're going to take the boards and all that. But my cousin's a little bit. And, but see, that's what happens to a lot of people is they study something. And when they get out of school or whatever, or maybe they do pursue that, but they really don't love it. So that's tip number 2, focus on what makes you happy. Tip number 3 is do the work so you can discover your passion and your purpose in life. I call it knowing your why and your way to a career that you love. And I love what Mark Twain says. He says that the 2 most important days of your life are the day that you're born and the day you discover why. And so that would be my 3rd tip. My 4th tip is get out of your comfort zone. Get out of your comfort zone and try the cheesecake. I have a story in my book about trying the cheesecake. And it's about a guy who, was raised by his grandmother, he and his siblings, and grandma never gave him any cheese. And when he got married, and I'll shorten the story, but when he got married, his wife kept trying to get him to go eat cheesecake at the Cheesecake Factory, which was her favorite restaurant. And he kept saying, I don't eat cheese. I don't like cheesecake. And she said, how do you know you don't like cheesecake if you've never tasted it?
Right.
And she finally got him to try the cheesecake, and drum roll, he loved the cheesecake. And that's what people, he was a guy that was in my training class. I wrote about him because the day he came into the Saturday training session I was doing called Discover Your Passion, he said, I've been trying my whole life to discover my passion. When he chose the story about the cheesecake, I'm like, that's the reason he can't find his passion, because he won't try new things. And that's the reason why so many people don't discover their passion, is because they're so afraid to get out of their comfort zone and try something, experiment, and I have a whole bunch of activities in there, including reading books, because books can be one way to open new doors and open your eyes to new opportunities. So that's number 4, get out of your comfort zone. And number 5 is stop trying to do it alone. Stop trying to do this alone, because, project managers, when I've been a project manager, I never ran a project all by myself. I had team members. I had people to help me. And I have a whole chapter in here, and I talk about, well, it's not a whole chapter, but it's in chapter 4, but it's like, find people to help you. If you need to hire a career coach, hire a career coach, find a mentor, find somebody who's been down this road before that can give you, help and suggestions. Go to a job seeker group. But people just try to do it by themselves, and that's why they get stuck and they get discouraged and they don't make any progress. So those would be my top 5 tips.
Well, see, and I'm going to add a top 6 to it. Find a cheerleader, because I know for me, and I try to be that cheerleader for a lot of people, but I know for me that when I am doing a daunting task, if I don't have somebody on the side going, I know you can do it, I believe in you, you've got this, it's really hard to push myself over that mountain. So yeah, I'm going to add number 6, find a cheerleader.
Yeah, well, that would be part of, not doing it alone, and that cheerleader would be part of your team,
Yep.
of that. So, can I talk about the quest methodology?
Oh,
Because I
absolutely. Yes. Let's go ahead and talk about the quest methodology. I didn't mean to skip that, but we just got so deep in the weeds.
I actually have that back there, but if we look at the quest here, the quest stands for questioning. And as you're going through this process, it's questioning, like questioning, what do I love to do? I mean, it'd be like getting to know yourself, asking the questions to yourself, asking questions like, and the questions that come up for job seekers is, where am I going to find a job? Who's hiring? What do I need to do? How do I do this? And then of course, the other flip side of the questioning is the questions as they, whether it's a job seeker or you're somebody looking for that more meaningful career, the questions that once you start interviewing with people, the questions they're going to ask you, and you've got to be prepared to answer, well, what are your core competencies? Tell me about your interests. Tell me about your accomplishments. So there's lots and lots of questions that happen during this process. The U, again, is about understanding, understanding yourself and your priorities and your core competencies and all the different things like so there's lots of things we need to know about ourselves and understand about ourselves, and also understanding the process as well. E is about exploring, and it's about exploring opportunities and options that are available to you as you go through this process. S is about structuring, and the project management process is the structure, the initiating, the planning, the executing, the monitor control, and the closeout is understanding that there's a structure. And if I start here, then I know how to do that. And I wanted, I think I have a puzzle here. I want to talk about, when we talk about structuring, it's like, if you look at a puzzle, okay, and this is a 550 piece puzzle, it's kind of hard to put, if I gave you this puzzle and dumped all the pieces on the floor and I didn't give you the lid to the puzzle to see it, okay, and I just dumped all these pieces on the floor and said, okay, Donna, put this puzzle together, you'd be like, what? How am I going to do that? This is when we talk about having a vision for what you want. This is, got to begin with the end in mind. What's it supposed to look like? So, and then all those pieces of the puzzle, we talk about structuring it. Well, how do you put together a puzzle if you're telling someone how to do that for the first time? Well, let's start with the flat edge pieces. Then we're going to try to do that. We create the frame first, right? And then we'll put things that look alike, colors and things like that. And so there's a process, if you're trying to describe to somebody how to put together a puzzle, there's a process for doing that. And once they learn that process, the second puzzle, the third puzzle, the fourth puzzle, a lot easier. And of course, always, and this is the thing that people don't start with, is having some sort of vision, right? So, but you need to have that structure. And then T is sort of the end goal, is hopefully for that transformation. For some people is simply a transition. Like I lost my IT job at XYZ company and I got another job at another company. I'm trying to transition from this company to this company, doing the same thing. I loved what I was doing. I just need to find another job. So it might be a simple transition for some people. For other people, it might be a total transformation as they leave a job or that they didn't really like to finding something that they really do love.
Right. Awesome. That is such a great thing. And so this project management approach that you use has simplified a very complicated process. How did you do that?
Well, I mean, I guess I kind of jumped ahead of myself because the puzzle analogy is kind of the idea of simplifying it. It's like, if I dump it all out there and just say, here, you got to put this puzzle together, and you're like, well, what, and you're overwhelmed by it. And that's the way most people are when they, they're looking for whether they're looking for their first job out of college, or so many people that I worked with had been working for 20, 25 years or longer. And all of a sudden they're out there looking again. They're like, I have no clue how to find a job. And remember, for those of us that are older, when we started looking, remember back in the day, you had one resume, okay, on a piece of ivory paper maybe, and you put, you made the same resume, copies of it, put it in envelopes and mailed it to people. Well, now you got the internet, you got applicant tracking systems, you got LinkedIn, there's so many different things out there. And so for those folks that are watching that haven't looked for a job in decades, it's a very complex process for them. And so in the book, I cover all of those different aspects of what to do. I have a whole section. There's a chapter in there on social media.
Right.
and, putting together. Now, I will say that I didn't go into a lot of detail on putting together your LinkedIn profile, for example, which is very important to do. I have a sort of a general thing, but the reason why I didn't on some of those things is because some of those things change so rapidly of even what they're looking for, that it's almost better to like say, okay, yes, go find somebody locally, like a local community college that teaches a class on LinkedIn, or find something online. And but make sure that you have a good LinkedIn profile or whatever. But so it just simplified it, because I put all the, I've given you the cover of the puzzle, if you will, and I've
Mhm.
given you the process, the structuring process, to simplify what is a very complex process.
Right. Yeah, and it is a very complicated process. And I would just say to those of you who are looking for easy, fast education on pretty much anything you want to do, especially around social media and stuff like that, I always tell people YouTube is your friend. If you don't know how to do something, I can almost guarantee you there's somebody who made a YouTube video about how to do it. So, and while the community college is a great way to do a deep dive, if you just need a little kind of instructions of how to get started, that's usually a good point to start with. So this book is so impressive. I imagine it was just a huge project for you. So what kind of challenges did you run into when you were trying to bring this book into the world?
I think I ran into probably the same struggles to some extent that a lot of people did. And some of them I didn't, because I understood how to manage a project. And I knew that writing a book was a project, and that, there were certain things I needed to do.
Mhm.
Uh, do that. But of course, getting distracted, and staying focused, I think is just, it's a challenge to anybody. And during the process, I'd say 75% of my book written, and it came pretty easily for me because it was something I was doing all the time with my corporate clients, and with my project management background, it just flowed pretty easily. And I didn't worry about, getting it in perfect order. It's just like, write this, write this, write this. I can decide how the chapters go later. But during that process, about a year and a half in, my father got very ill. And then I was really taking care of him for about a year and a half. So, I mean, and I kept thinking, I'll take my stuff with me when I go take care of him. But when your dad's in the hospital and you just can't get stuff done. So life happens. And, and we have to just remember that it's okay. I mean, life happens, and sometimes we have to put it on the back burner. But when we have more control over it, then we have to remember to stay focused on it, and try to eliminate the distractions from the honey-do list and all those things where people are saying, hey, now that you're not doing this, or
Mhm.
you're like, I may not be doing that, but I've got a project. My project is called Write This Book, right?
Right.
Okay. And
Mhm.
so you have to set boundaries with people. And I talk about boundaries in there. I remember hearing you mention boundaries earlier. And you have to, and I tell people in the book, I say, let's say that, you lost your job, and you tell your family, okay, here are the boundaries. When I'm at home, I'm not, during the hours of 8:30 and 5, I'm working on my career quest project, or my book, or whatever it happens to be. And so I'm going to be in my office, and that doesn't mean to come in. And if the door's closed, it means I'm probably on a phone interview or something. Don't disturb me, don't knock on the door. I can, but you have to really set those boundaries and let your family members know, because otherwise, it's new to them too. So we have to also remember that they're not used to you being there. And so, yeah, they're not purposely trying to distract you, but unless you create those boundaries and set those guidelines or ground rules or whatever, they won't know what to do either. And so, it's just important to do that.
Right. And I imagine, taking that long of a time, I hear this often in my writing groups where, somebody's either working, or they have children, or they have other outside jobs that they have to do, and write kind of in the margins. And part of the thing that I see them struggle with is kind of that continued motivation and dedication to go through the process. They work in kind of like starts and stops. They'll be very dedicated for a while, and then they'll just kind of go, well, I'm too busy. I'll just have to get back to it. And, while that is all fine, as you said, life happens, and sometimes you have to step back and reevaluate and change. But, it also does affect your motivation when you don't see that progress happening as you had anticipated. And so I imagine that that was probably very difficult for you going through that
Yeah,
process
yeah.
for a 2.5 year project.
I want to say something though, and I want to put a plug in for you is, and
Oh,
I didn't know about this when I was writing my book, because I was a first time author, and you learn things once you become an author and get involved with other authors, you learn stuff, but I didn't realize that there were writer groups. And Donna, you have a writer group called Shut Up and Write, right? And then you meet two. It's one on Monday, one on Thursday. Pacific time is 9 a.m. My time on the East Coast, it's 12 noon. That's on Monday and Thursday. So if you need a cheerleader, you need someone to keep you focused, you need someone to help keep you motivated, then I would suggest, I mean, if I had to do it over again, and I'm doing that, I'm gonna get on your things too, your show is to, I may not be able to be there every Monday, and I'm probably mostly going to be on Thursdays, but that's a great way to stay connected, because a lot of people, when they're writing a book, they're alone, and especially if they're an extrovert like me, it's like, I'm writing my book, but I still need some connection with people. And so to me, that would be one way to do it. And there's also local writer groups and things like that to help. So
right. Yeah. And I find this is something that you hear me say often, is that you don't know what you don't know until you don't know it. And this is what I love about these writing groups. They're pretty much open to anyone. The Shut Up and Write program is international. They have Shut Up and Write meetings in person and online pretty much anytime, day or night, and pretty much anywhere around the world. Of course, you're more than welcome to join one of mine or both of them or any and all of them. But, do go check it out. You can go to shutupandwrite.com. I believe it is shutupwrite.com. Not, there's no and involved in it. Or you can go to the Meetup app, which is where most of them are listed, and you can look for your locally, or if you set your distance to all, then you can see all of them around the world, different days and time. And as I said, a lot of them are online, and some of them are in person. So what I find is the accountability of being with other writers makes me stay on track. It makes me feel like not only I'm being supported, but that I'm also being encouraged,
mhm.
which is great. So thank you for that shout out. So we're going to get back to your book now, because your book, as you said, excuse me, is a total coaching package. And it includes a plethora, and I do mean plethora. I don't use that word often, but it does. A plethora of tools and resources that are included beyond the book. Can you give us an idea of what else it is that they get when they get this book?
Sure. When you get the book, you actually have access to, right now it's 57 tools, templates, sample documents, like sample resumes, sample marketing plans. There's 57 on there. And the reason I put it on a website, well, one, if I put it all in here, the book would be like twice as big as this, right? So, but I also put it on the website. It's on a hidden page of my website, and you'll get the password when you purchase the book. And that way I can add tools, I can update tools so it stays fresh, if a book's out there for a while, after a while things change, and it's like, okay, that's not even, up to date anymore. So this gives me the opportunity to do that. So you'll go to the website and you'll see on there where the tools are, and you'll access that page, and it takes you to a hidden page on the website, and tons and tons of tools and templates and so forth, all kinds of things on there. And I also want to say, one of the tools that's on there is a checklist of what you need to do when you're looking for a job. And I actually, anybody can get a copy of that checklist by going to my website, which is at kerryahrend.com. And that is spelled Kerryahrend. Never know how to turn this thing. kerryahrend.com. And I have a free tool there that you can access, and that is a checklist of different things that you want to do during this process. So
Okay, so how many items are on that checklist? If I remember, it's like 21. Is that correct?
I don't know. I don't know. There's 20 or 30. I mean, there's 20 or 30 of them. I don't know. Just all kinds of things that you need to do, like, um, determine your branding statement and your elevator speech and your, just a whole list of things. And it's just a checklist to say, yeah, oh, these are things that I need to do. So as you look at the checklist, you can go, wow, there's a lot of stuff to do. This is not the old job search I did 20 30 years ago, right? I mean, there's a lot to be done if you really, and here's the thing, some of it depends on your goal as a project. If your goal is simply to find a job, then maybe you don't do all the things. And I tell people, I said, you go through the book and some of the stuff it may not apply to you. But if your goal is to find work that is more meaningful and more engaging and more purposeful, more fulfilling, then I would recommend going through and working all of the activities. And not only are there the tools in the back of the book, but at the end of each and every chapter, there are, or well, actually throughout the chapters, there are exercises to do, action items. I call them action items to do. So you can do those. And then at the end of the chapter, I have a checklist at the end of every chapter. Did you do this? Did you do this? Did you do this? So every chapter includes a checklist of, hey, before you move on, have you done these things?
Right. This is such an amazing book, and she is extraordinarily thorough in this entire book. It is called Project Career Quest: Navigating the Journey to New Opportunities Waiting. We will have the link to the book, the description of the book. We'll also have a link to Kerry's website, and we'll try to get you a direct link to that free checklist that she is offering today. That is amazing. So thank you for that. But I know that little birdie told me that you're working on a new project. What's next?
Yes, I am. Well, I felt like I would really like to expand on a little bit in the book, in Project Career Quest. And I'd really like to expand on those chapters that and finding your purpose and your passion and in really getting to know yourself. And so my next book, I think the title is going to be called Mission Career Quest. So a project has a definite beginning and end, but a mission is a bigger thing than a project. Okay. And so the next book being Mission Career Quest, but really will focus on finding work that you love, doing what you love, so discover your why and find your way to a job that you love. And so that's going to be my next,
Right. So this sounds like you're going to be really drilling down into what it is you're passionate about, what it is you really want to do, and figuring out if that's for you. And that's an amazing kind of focal point, because I think it's critical. You can't really find the things you love if you're not really certain what it is that you want. It's kind of like, when you get a group of people together and you go, well, let's go to dinner, where would you like to go? And you got 50 different answers. And so it's like, well, what do you really want? So
let me just say this, in this book and the next book, I don't have the answers for anybody.
Sure.
Okay. I don't have the answers. It's not like you can read a book and go, oh, that's what I need to do. Right. It's, oh, this is the work I need to do. So right. Both of these books are very action-based books. They're about doing certain activities and really working through it. So if you're kind of a lazy person and you're like, I don't do any of that stuff, it's like, well, fine, stay where you are, do whatever. But, if you really want to take the time to, I know we've all heard this expression, people spend more time planning what they're going to take to their tailgate at the football game than they do planning their future. But you've got to put it in the work. And so both of these books, if you're going to pick them up, is do it because you're willing to put the work in, because you truly want to find out, do something that you love in life.
Right. And I have to tell you, I gave a couple of these books out last year to high school and college graduates that I knew. And I think it's an amazing gift that you could offer to graduates coming up, because it is something that they are going to be using over and over again. As she said, you can use this simply to go out and find your first job, or to find your next job, or to really drill down and get to that career that you love. So
they don't teach you any of this in college.
No, they certainly don't. They don't teach it in high school anymore either. So where can our listeners connect with you? Because I think they're going to have like a million questions. And as you said, you're an author, career strategist, and a project management expert, but you also do some coaching too. So where can they connect with you?
Well, again, they can connect with me best on my website at kerryahrend.com. And again, that's Kerry. Last name is Ahrend, Ahren, as in Nancy, D as in David. I always say kerryahrend.com is the best place. I'm also on LinkedIn. And so you can just Google me on LinkedIn, put my name in and find me on LinkedIn. I'm on Twitter.
Yeah, we will have the social media links in the show notes to her website, also to her LinkedIn and her Twitter profile. I believe we got all of those for you. So we'll have you check those out. But I'm just so excited and thrilled to have you today. This is an amazing book. I know we went a little bit longer today, but this is such a big book. We really had a lot of information to cover. So I just have one question for you. Do you have anything else that you want to share?
I do. I have a company that bought out my project management company 2 years ago. So I'm sort of associated with them, a company called Korn Ferry, and they're one of the largest management consulting companies in the world. And they just put out a report last week that said that in 2021, that over 40 million Americans told their boss, I quit. It's called the Great Resignation. And I would just say that now is a great time to start looking for work that's meaningful. And, I don't know why they all quit, but I'm guessing that just with all the stuff that's been going on in the world, that they just said, you know what, life is too short to do something you don't love. And so if you're one of those people, whether you resigned in 2021 or you're thinking about, resigning and saying, I quit to do something that's more meaningful with your life, then Project Career Quest is a great place to start down that journey. So I call it your Career Quest journey, and I'd love to help you on that journey. So thanks for asking. That's a great question, Donna.
You're welcome. And we're so grateful that you're here with us today. So I'm going to ask you to just kind of hang out, and we're going to pull the ripcord on that tip. So today's tip, we're going to talk about staying focused and motivated. So I talk about this a lot, and I know that I sound like a broken record, but it's really, really very important and somewhat easy. If you're working from home, if you're working as a self-employed person, as a writer, as a author, you have to set the rules. You have to set it up as a business. You have to operate as a business, which means that you need to report to work on a regular basis. Um, as authors and writers, we can be a little more flexible with what those specific hours are, but you do have to put in the work. You also have to, as Kerry pointed out, eliminate some of those distractions. Let your family, friends, and acquaintances know that you're actually working, whether you're laying down thinking through the plot, or, shuffling papers around while you're trying to figure out why your characters are not cooperating or something like that, or just how you're going to approach putting that entire book together. It all counts as your work, and you have to recognize that. And to stay motivated, you have to create that habit of writing and working. As I said, all writing is not at your computer and your keyboard. Some of it is a lot of deep thought. Some of it is a lot of deciding. And some of it is just, as they say, get your behind in the chair and your fingers on those keyboards and just put in the work. So I hope that all helps you. I want you to stay motivated. I want you to stay focused. And even if that's only 5 to 10 minutes a day, if you have other jobs, you have other things that you need to be doing, that's great. As long as you have decided that that is your operating hours and that you do that work on a regular basis. It doesn't have to be daily, but it needs to be consistent. So I hope that's helpful for you. And again, we want to thank our special guest today, Kerry Ahrend. Her book is Project Career Quest, Navigating the Journey to New Opportunities Waiting. And we are so glad that you were able to join us today for the Writer's Parachute. And we hope that all of your writing dreams land perfectly. So until next time, Happy writing, everyone, and we'll see you next time. Bye.
Bye.